Hey, good morning.
Lambert, good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Lamb back, everybody. Hope y'all got your coffee, your tea, whatever wakes you up in the morning. Are y'all ready? It's our last episode.
Yes, this went by so fast. Oh
No.
my gosh.
How are you this morning, Pizza?
I'm good. I'm so excited to get into this book trap. I'm so excited to just continue to develop this conversation. It has been so exciting. How are you? How are you, Chief?
Yeah, I'm good. I got a good night's sleep. Yeah, no, I'm good. Lamb back, Admiral Segun.
Lambert, Comrade Petunia. Lambert.
Land back, Chief Watakame. Oh my god, yes, the countdown is always exciting. And then we show up, you get to see our beautiful faces bright and early in the morning. Land back, Justine.
Lambert, Chief Tiana.
Land back, Chief Sante. Land back, Chief Maze. Oh my god, wow, look at all these people showing up. They woke up. Land back, Chief Amalicha and Sergeant Bear. Lamb. Oh wow! All right, this is
Ooh, ooh.
awesome. Lamb back, Sergeant Secretary General. Oh my God, Lamb back, Chief AD.
Yes, Chief Ahe.
Wow.
Shout out to the amazing models last night at our really awesome ¿cómo se llama? A fashion show. Sorry, my multilingual brain. But yeah, that was so awesome. That was so beautiful. Like, I was just in awe. I was like, first of all, college people are gorgeous. Like, oh my god. And
Yes.
also the designs were so beautiful. I'm like so excited to get
The,
those
de-
print shots ready.
the designs, the models, like they were stunning. They were stunting. Like it was beautiful. I was like live tweeting, and I was like, "This is so incredible! Like so such great content. Like Chief Gun, CIC showing up. Like, oof. They
Yeah.
really didn't. I was like, they really left behind their entire modeling careers just to be revolutionaries for their people.
We love to see it. We love to see it. Here to get my daily dose of political educación. Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, Amalicha. Okay, Amalicha.
Land backing.
Man back, Chief. Yes, I'm so excited to get into this. Like,
Make sure to like and comment and share. Share this to the groups you're in. Let them know that we're here to give them this education. Let them know that they're living under colonialism.
exactly. We got to get this
Land
education to our people.
back, Chief Addie.
Man back, Chief Addie. Yes, one of the amazing models at our show last night. Amazing.
Yes, they were turning out looks last night. Oh, it was incredible. The sunglasses, I was like, wow.
Uh,
That Chief Gun, laying back, Chief Gun. Yes, revolutionary teachers are the sexiest. Period.
I love it. Yes. Thank you, everybody. Lambak. So make sure to continue to share this. We got to get this political education to our people because I love talking to you all, but we are all, revolutionaries that are continuing to be developed. We got to continue to develop our colonized people into revolutionaries.
Yes, and we're reading part 4 and appendix of From a Native Daughter. So that's what we're going to be diving into today, which, was kind of liberal, right, and what it laid out. But there were some good quotes and some good parts, some criticisms to be raised. And so I'm Chief Frederico. I'm Chief of Social Media for Black Hammer, and I represent the colonized nation of Boriken, and I use he, they pronouns.
My name is Chief Itza. My name is Chief Itza. I am the chief of the Garden Committee, and I'm representing the colonization of Mexico, reconnecting to the Zapotec people in Oaxaca, and I use they, them pronouns.
Lamb back. And yes, we're raising funds for Hammer City, which obviously is our first anti-colonial zone to serve as a space to liberate and further the revolution, anti-colonial revolution for the liberation of all colonized people worldwide. And it's a place where we're not going to have any discrimination of nationality, gender, age, mental, physical differences, because all colonized proletariat are equal. That's built into our principle of unity number 2. We're going to have jobs, housing, food, healthcare, and best of all, there's going to be no cops, no rent, no Rona. So And we're returning the land to indigenous people. We're going to have indigenous stewardship over the land. And it's just so exciting. It's going to be built in Colorado. We have 200 acres of land. And if y'all want to see that liberation, if you want to see the city built, please donate, drop money, donorbox.org. And y'all can Cash App, build Hammer City as well. Yes, Benjamin, $10.
Yes, let's get these donations in and those reparations. I see a lot of people in the reparations corps. Where are those reparations? Hello. Let's get it. Wait, another 10 for each of these amazing hosts.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Oh my God, I'm blushing.
I'm blushing. Thank you, Big Homie.
What are
Yes.
you excited about, Chief Ita, for Hammer City?
Well, you already know, as the chief of the garden committee, I'm excited for the gardens and all the farms we're about to set up and the Walapini structures. Like, I'm so excited for that. I'm also excited just to be free, to be liberated, like to be walking down, our like little paved road, little Hammer City road, and not be assaulted, and not be in danger of my life. You know what I'm saying? Like, as a colonized person, we are always at risk in the colony. You know what I'm saying? Like, from the pigs, from colonizers, from horizontal violence. Like, I'm excited to just be safe. There
Yes.
you
Wow, land back. $20 in reparations. We
go.
love to see.
$25. Yes, we love to see it. We love to see it. $10 from Chief I, Lamb back Chief I.
But yeah, no, exactly. Like full unity with that, Chief Ita, regarding like what you're excited about for Hammer City, because it is going to be such a liberating space. We ain't gonna tolerate no violence against our peoples, right, in any way. And it's like you just live as an indigenous person in this structure, right? And it's like you have to fear from the pigs, from ICE, everything, and then like what goes on in your community.
Yes, exactly. And $25 in reparations to Hammer City. There you go. Punto. And
Yeah. Ooh,
$50 in
ooh,
reparations.
showing up. All
Yes,
right.
come through, reparations corps, come through. And we do have a reparations corps announcement at the end of the show, so I'm excited about that as well. Yes, so our goal is $400 to close out the
Mm,
show. We have made it over our goal of 350 the last three shows. So yeah, let's close it up with a big bang with 400. There you go.
yes.
I love the smell of reparations in the morning. Don't you, Federico?
It's such a great way to start the morning when you start seeing these reparations come through.
Exactly,
They
exactly.
here for it. They here for anti-colonial revolution. We love it.
Exactly. Y'all don't want to be free? Where are these donations? Where are these more reparations? Like, I'm excited for Hammer City to develop like our own. Like, we saw that amazing fashion show last night. Like, I'm so excited to actually be able to develop our own clothes in Hammer City. You know what I'm saying? Like, make it out of hemp, make it out of wool. I'm gonna be crocheting in that. Like, so I'm so excited.
Yeah. Land back Comrade Petunia with $20. But yeah, like we're gonna have our own clothes, like you know what I mean? It's not gonna be this exploitive practice that's like just so destructive to our environment, right? Like just the process of making clothes in this colonial structure is so destructive. From
Mhm.
like the dyes that they use to the materials to the labor that is exploited that goes into it. And in Hammer City, it's gonna be such a liberating practice, and it's gonna be clothes that are connected to us, our culture, our identity.
Exactly, exactly. Just another 20 in reparations towards Hammer City. Oh, there you
Yes.
go. There you go. Under leadership, under colonized leadership. Like, we love to see it. Like, we love to see it.
These
Yeah.
reparations recruit corps like is coming through this morning. Like it's crazy. Ooh, $4 in reparations. All right, you can get more. Multiply that by 10.
Yes. Maybe 100. Multiply that by 100. Yes. Shere Khan said, ew, the plastic they make us wear in the colony. Yeah, literally. It's so disgusting. Like, and also the fact that a lot of our clothes is like fire retardant. Like, why? Like, our pillows are fire. What? Like, what are you doing?
It's just all a capitalist system. Anything to make money, right? Like they got to sell each little part of this that goes into our clothes and everything. It doesn't even make sense sometimes.
Exactly. And the chemicals they use for fire retardant are like poisonous to the water. Like, they're literally, you cannot remove them from the water once they're in the water. You know what I'm saying? But that's a discussion for a different time. Shout out to SciTech.
Yes, and we're gonna go into our morning trivia.
Yes.
Are
And if
y'all ready? I hope y'all read.
y'all know the rules, if you get it wrong, you gotta donate to Hammer City. You gotta donate to Hammer City. Okay, so what is the name of the main student group organized at the University of Hawaii? A. Kalaipo. B. The Hawaiian Student Union. C. Ku. I'm gonna butcher this name. Okay, C or D. Hawaiian Students for Justice. I'm self-critical, y'all. Please blame it on my colonized tongue, not on my heart.
It's like Kuliki Lahiki. I don't know.
Yes, it's my colonized tongue, y'all.
See? Kuiki Lahiki. Okay.
Okay,
One day, we'll be able to speak all of these indigenous languages because we're going to reclaim them in Hammer City. And we
exactly,
teach each
exactly,
other how to speak our own native languages and our descendants.
exactly. Yes, yes. So remember, y'all, keep drop your guesses in the chat. And remember the rule, y'all. Like, if you get it wrong, donate to Hammer City.
Yeah. What is the answer, y'all? Let's see these answers come through. I know y'all read this was the last episode. Y'all was excited for it.
Yes, and remember to keep donating throughout, like throughout the show. Y'all, where are your guesses, y'all?
Yeah. Come on, Hammers. Y'all read.
Okay, okay.
Yes. Okay, KW. All right.
Benjamin, is it A? Okay, we're about to find out, Benjamin.
Yeah. The question's for you, Benjamin.
Cher
Ooh.
said C. I still can't pronounce it, but Cher said C. Okay, okay. Chief Tiana said C.
It's gonna be a trigger word for you in Hammer City.
I'm like, C,
Yes,
okay.
Luna. All right. You see these answers coming through. But yeah, it's Kali Powell. So y'all got it wrong. Donate $5 to Hammer City.
Yes, yes. And there's nothing wrong with getting it wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. We are all learning. This is a learning environment. So if we get it wrong, now we're about to find out. We're about to find out the correct answer. But yeah, make sure to donate to Hammer City if you got that wrong. That's going literally towards your liberation. So yeah, donate to Hammer City. And we are going to get into our first Read That Back. Yeah, so my first Read That Back by me. If we can pull it up on the screen. Okay, sweet. Mine is short and sweet, but it gets to the point. And this is on page 151. So the University of Hawaii stands atop the educational pyramid of public schools as a flagship campus for the state. With over 40,000 full and part-time students, it is a living symbol of colonization. In many ways, the university is an educational equivalent to the American Military Command Center in Hawaii. Both serve as guardians of white dominance, both support the state economy, and both provide a training ground for future technocrats. Whew, short and simple and straight to the point. I really love this Read That Back because it outlines our third principle of unity, which essentially is all the root of all of the root of everything that plagues colonized people is colonialism and neocolonialism. And we recognize that a lot of all university institutions are colonial institutions because they're an extent of this white supremacist state. So it's just a training ground for future neocolonialists and just a continued like training ground for future colonists, colonizers, essentially. So, and I disunite with the way she lays out this entire chapter because it's really centered around her. It's really centered around how, oh, I had to struggle to be an assistant professor for 5 years and endure all this racism, but it's a win for my people. Like, no, Juani K. Trust, it's a you wasted your time. No, respectfully, you wasted your time because your people are still being genocided. They're still dispossessed of their land. How is that a win for anybody but you? And even at the end of the chapter, you said, I wasted those 5 years of my life. I'm never getting them back. So who is that really a win for? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and she lays this out, but then continues to want to be a part of this colonial institution. This is your brain on liberalism. This is your brain on liberalism when you literally outline what is right and you outline what is correct and then choose to do the opposite. You know what I'm saying? So Hawani K. Trust, there's still an opportunity for you. Join a revolutionary organization, join an organization and unite with all colonized people because Hawaii is a small island, You're going to need help from all other colonized people, and we are willing to help you. We are united in this struggle against white power. So this is why I really love this Read That Back, because she really contradicts herself, and she really lays out her liberalism in this passage, despite laying out the correct political line in the beginning of the passage. But yeah, what do you think, Chief Federico?
Land back, yes, full unity. And Chief Amma had laid out too that this was their read that back, in terms of understanding that the American college system, university system, it's just a colonial system that's meant to further colonization, right? And it works hand in hand with U.S. empire, U.S. military, right, to further these oppressive structures, to further imperialism of colonized people's lands. They take these reports and essays that are developed in colonial academia and use it to then justify further colonization and imperialism, right? They're even doing it now with like justifying colonization of the Arctic. Like it's just so ridiculous. And I also unite, with you disuniting with like, because Honani Kai Trask is brilliant, like lays out like this colonial structure for the entirety of what it is, but then centers this entire struggle around herself and fighting to maintain professor status within this colonial university that's racist as hell, that is just white supremacist, that's colonial in every sense of the word. And they don't hide it because like Hawaii is very much a repressive colony, and she's like it's even pre-60s colony, whereas like we see in the mainland like these liberals who really think that they're on the side of colonized peoples, but they also play their role within colonization and imperialism. But then she centers this whole struggle around herself and then gets so many of her people to fight for her to be a professor at a university rather than like taking that energy and diverting it to fighting for housing and, taking the land back for the native Hawaiians, right? And kicking out these colonizers and the colonial government. And it's just like all of that energy is diverted to this struggle, which is ridiculous.
Exactly. And like she literally outlines in a couple chapters previous to this that colonial institutions lie on our history. They project their own history onto ours. So when they were talking about indigenous Hawaiians practicing infanticide, practicing all these like things that there's literally no material proof of, like why would you, why would you be a part of the colonial institution that is literally lying on your people instead of destroying it, so it doesn't exist? You know what I'm saying? Doesn't literally this is
a disease.
Oh, sorry, what'd you say?
Liberalism is a disease. It really is.
It is, and it's a tool of the colony. They know that, like, yes, or they keep petty bourgeoisie liberals wrapped up in academia, chasing liberal ideologies and dissing actual revolution. Exactly. Lord. But exactly. And I also just want to outline there is a difference between going to a colonial institution to be part of the bourgeoisie, to be part of this like petit bourgeoisie, because we recognize that like colonized people will never be part of the white ruling class ever. That's why you're petit bourgeoisie. But also like there's a difference between doing that and also using those tools to help like advance revolution. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to college to like be a biochemist. Okay, use those tools to like help revolution. Like for example, Chief Sub, they're literally building hearts for the colonized masses. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a massive difference. Yes, college hurt me way more than it helped me. And once they determined I was no use to them, my life was made hell.
Yeah.
Punto. Like they discard us at every single level. They literally discard us at every level. It's so disgusting.
It just teaches you a false history, right? Colonial, yes, please share. Like the devil is alive. We know these colonizers be propagating every damn day, right? 24/7, their propaganda machine works. So share. But yeah, like, these colonial education systems, like, from the time like we're taken as children and put into public education systems, right? Like the American schooling system, to these colleges and universities, like they just all teach you this colonial education that leaves such a scar on your mind, and it's racist as hell too, especially when you get to university. And the things that they teach you to justify your own genocide, which they won't even call it that. I remember like I was in a class, like I wrote a whole paper on the genocide of indigenous peoples of these lands, and I termed it exactly what it was, genocide, laid it out. The professor was like, well, I wouldn't call it that, and then gave me a B for saying like I was wrong and terming it genocide. Like, all right, like saying that it wasn't comparable to what white Jews in Germany experienced. All right. So yeah, like, it's just so destructive. And these petty blue sellouts, like, will work so hard in colonial academia for what? It does nothing for your people. It disconnects you from them.
And she literally also said that a couple chapters back, where she was like, once I returned from college, I was disconnected from my people. Miss Girl, like, then why are you still why are you still trying to be a part of this colonial institution? You know what I'm saying? Like, she contradicts herself at every single point. Like, this is literally liberalism. It's a tool of the colony. Like, the colony wants you to be liberal so you don't actually develop revolution. You know what I'm saying? So, oh, this chapter was very frustrating to read, to be honest, to get through. However, Kwani K. Trust, there is still a chance for you. Join a revolutionary organization. Join Black Hammer org. Let's get free together.
Yes, get some of that money back that the colony is paying you to teach these classes, which are doing nothing for your people because like most of your people can't even get in the university.
Literally. Oh my God, literally. Oh, and then we'll get into that. We'll get into that later as well.
Yes, yeah, because she talks about like how poor and oppressed like the Native Hawaiians are, and then also says like the university serves as a breeding ground for breeding cadre. But like, where are these cadre going? Like after they complete this education, like are they going to really help the Hawaiian people who like they are supposed to represent and come from, right? Or is it going to further this colonial system that oppresses Hawaii?
Exactly. And there's a difference between material solutions for the colonized masses, for the indigenous Hawaiians of Hawaii, and then there's just representation. Like, why would that provides you no material like solutions at all? Like, your people again are still being genocided, are still dispossessed of their land, and continuing to be so. Like, it just only gets worse the more that you halt, like the more that you just basically slow down revolution. Like, it's only going to get progressively worse. That's why we need to act now. We need to organize now. We need to build right now.
100%. And it's like crazy because you're supposed to find representation in these sellouts like Deb Holland and stuff, like who are sellouts completely for the colony. And then also, once they get in, they work to further expand this colonial system. Like you have Deb Holland, this native woman who's calling for expansion of the police state, of the pig state of America to help with murdered and missing indigenous women, as if they're not responsible for it. As if the
Literally.
pigs aren't the ones doing it and trafficking indigenous women.
Literally. Exactly. Full unity with that. Full unity. Full unity. Ooh, we can be here all day, because we can rip them apart. But let's see. Let's get into some audience read that back. So if y'all have read that backs.
Yes, I saw a great one from Chief Segun. Yes, Admiral Segun. I'm self-critical, but yes. So read that back, page 137. The major public educational institution, the University of Hawaii, funnels millions of taxpayer dollars into a school of travel industry management and a business school replete with a real estate center and a chair of free enterprise, renamed the Walker Chair to hide the crude reality of capitalism. As the propaganda arm of the tourist industry in Hawaii, both schools churn out studies that purport to show why Hawaii needs more golf courses, hotels, and tourist infrastructure, and how Hawaiian culture is naturally one of giving and entertaining. Of course, state-encouraged commodification and prostitution of native cultures through tourism is not unique to Hawaii. It is suffered by peoples in places as disparate as Goa, Australia, Tahiti, and the southwestern United States. Yes, no, 100% full unity with this because, like, as I was discussing before, like these colonial academia centers, these universities just serve to further colonization. They take these papers, right? It's just a loop. They take these papers that are created by these professors and then feed them into these businesses, into US military, into the state, right? Which is used to then continuously justify this colonization of colonized peoples worldwide. And I love how Dr. Fernani Katras, like here, just lays out the connection, right? Like it's not just what's going on in Hawaii, but we see this all across the world where colonized peoples are, from Tahiti, from Australia, right? And that unites so much with our principle of unity. Number two, that all colonized proletariat are equal because our common enemy is colonialism. That's what continues to keep us oppressed.
Exactly. And this again relates to the read that back that I just read, where not only is these colonial universities putting out these reports to continue to push the agenda of colonization of Hawaii, but we could also see it in anthropology, not only with these reports, but with anthropology, where it was like, oh, well, it's okay for me to dig up the remains of your ancestors in the name of science. You know what I'm saying? So every extension of this of colonial institutions, of colonial universities, are to perpetrate colonization, to continue the colonization of all colonized people and all colonized life by extent. You know, when we say colonized people, we recognize that we as colonized people are an extension of the land. We are nature. When we speak about nature, that includes us. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I just wanted to fully unite with that. Read that back. And just colonial universities, colonial institutions are disgusting. They're disgusting, and their only purpose is to continue the colonization of all colonized life. Again, just need to reiterate that, emphasize, highlight that as you do.
Exactly, full unity. You just need to look at the history, right? They're built on stolen land, often through forced labor of Africans, right? So many universities in America were built by slaves, like enslaved peoples, stolen from their lands. And like, so you think this structure that was built on genocide of indigenous peoples and enslavement, chattel enslavement of Africans, is going to do anything other than continue colonization? That's just crazy. No.
Literally, this is your brain on liberalism again, y'all. Like, we have to highlight that. Like, it just doesn't make sense. We're literally like, how do you outline this explicitly? Talk about how it is colonization, and then want to continue to perpetrate it. What? Makes no sense at all.
Oh.
Yes. Y'all have any more read that backs? That was a beautiful read that back, Admiral Shagun, and it contributed beautifully to the conversation we were already having. But yeah, make sure to drop your read that backs in the comments.
And yeah, like, just it's just always amazing too, like how Honani Trust like lays it out, and then we'll be like, oh, like we're fighting to take back control of these universities, of these colonial structures. If that's going to do anything for your people, like first of all, the colony will never let you have control over the colonial structures. It necessitates to further your genocide, your oppression, right?
Exactly. Well,
But
unity.
revolution is the only solution.
Ooh, revolution is the only solution. There you go. There you go. Punto. Yeah, literally. Like, what else do we have to, like, how else do we have to lay it out, you know?
And yeah, what did Rohan say? I just want to put that comment up. Just they they said that's very true. They will take the ones that make the school look good, and they will knock down anyone to raise that person. If you're not useful or can't make the school look good, you're shot down quick. College is poison. Yeah, I mean that's what the colony does, right? If you're not willing to sell out your own people to uphold the colonial structure, you're gone, right? Like, and that's what we understand. Like, all of these neo-colonials could never just like get up one day and say, "Hey, like my people rise up and fight for revolution." They'll be taken out by the colony real quick, right? So that's why what's built into our principle of unity number 3 is like all the problems we face come from colonialism and the submissive neo-colonialists within our nations that continue to get us to buy into this colony.
Exactly. Full unity with that. And also, oh yeah, okay. Yes, Sergeant Bears, read that back. So on page 52. Oh, I think this might be my read that. Oh no, it's not. Okay, people of color comprise more than 75% of the student body, while the faculty is more than 75% white. Along with sugar companies and banks, the university is one of the few remaining institutions where no attempts have been made to add a little native color to the visible white reality. Ooh, very beautiful.
Yeah. And it just like lays out like what white hegemony is, right, within this state of Hawaii. Because like Konani Kaitras laid out, it is a colonial university, it is a colonial structure, and it maintains colonization in every way possible. So why would they have indigenous peoples on the faculty who represent a threat to the entirety of white ideology, who represent a threat to white hegemony on that land, on these islands? And so, like, it's just crazy to even try to fight to be within this structure, right? Understanding entirely what it is, that this is a colonial university built on the death of your own people, built on maintaining this system that is built on the death of your own people. And, it's never going to be anything that's like this diverse, right? Like, bastion of hope and liberation. Like, we understand too, like, we see what representation is within this colony, right? It's Kamala Harris, it's AOC, all people who sell out their people to maintain the colonial system that kills us.
Exactly. Full unity with that. And why would they add, quote, a little native color? Like, the way these institutions look is representative of the ideology and agenda they are pushing. Why would they add indigenous people to a white supremacist agenda? You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, Hawani K. Trask, like let's please. Yes, and I really want to highlight Benjamin's comment. Yeah, she kept talking so much about her dissertation like it meant anything. Exactly. It doesn't mean anything when your people are still don't have their MFing land back. Like when your people are dying in the street, when there's more Haole landowners in the islands of Hawaii than there is indigenous people having stewardship of their own land.
Yeah.
Like,
And it's like these dissertations are just going to be read by colonizers anyways, right?
yes, I love. KW said, "I love the Revolutionary Book Trap or the Revolutionary Book Trap because it is our a dual dual educational power, educational pyramid of the state, like the military, the university, the garden of white cultural dominance." Exactly, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that is we're building a dual contending power, and that must include education. You know, we're not gonna let our like Malcolm X said. I'm gonna misquote him, I'm gonna paraphrase him a little bit. But yeah, why would you let your enemy educate your children? You know what I'm saying? Why would we continue to let the colony educate our children, educate us, educate the people who are coming after us in any capacity? So full unity with that, KW.
Period. And that's why we have the Revolutionary Book Trap, and we read these books and we give out this political education because, like, the colony, does it every day with their schooling system, with their university system, right? And it falsely educates our people to get them to buy into this colony, and it really breeds in every way possible the colonized versus the colonizer, right? Like it is such a breeding ground for that to instill these colonial values that then further this system of genocide.
Exactly. Full unity with that. Yes. Y'all keep dropping your read that backs. Like I'm really loving this conversation. We're really tying it to what the main contradiction is in colonialism. Um,
Uh, and then I think we're gonna go into the next read that back. So I'll get my book out, pull it up. I think this just lays out to like, all of the problems we face do come from this colonial structure. That's why it's gotta go. So I explained the long history of white violence against people of color precisely to educate Joey Carter about his place in history. So to give a little bit of pretext, this is her like entire fight with this one student, this one white male student, Joey Carter, who got upset that Hawaiian people term colonizers Hale, which is their own term for like noting white people and colonizers, right? And like made this whole thing about how it's racist. And then she responded with an essay like how, if you don't like the word Hale, you can just leave. So it ended up being this whole thing. It's very liberal, but this point lays out so beautifully. So, for it is white people and not people of color who have a history of violence against others. In Hawaii, it is the Hale who stole our land, took our government, destroyed our nationhood, and suppressed our culture. It is white people who created laws to divide Hawaiians by blood quantum. It is white people who created institutions far into our ways of life. It is white people who brought capitalism to Hawaii. In other words, it is white people who, for their own benefit, have exploited and oppressed Hawaiians. Carter, like most white people, did not know or want to learn any of this. But if I did not argue for violence against Hale, then why did the philosophy department and their vicious chairman say that I did? The answer, I believe, lies in the fears and resentments of the Hale themselves. Here in Hawaii, Hale have grown accustomed to the myth of racial harmony, created and reinforced by the politicians and the tourist industry. Hale live in predominantly white or Asian neighborhoods, and if they know anything at all about Hawaiians, it is that we have a funny, unpronounceable language. We appear on television as activists or other lawbreakers trying to stop development, and we have a deep wound called the overthrow when the all-white American government took our sovereignty. Yes, Hale and Hawaii are nervous because they know wrongs were committed in their names and for their benefit. So yeah, land back, full unity with just like me choosing this read that back, just because um, one, it does expose this contradiction of obviously Honani Kai Trask having this very liberal fight with this one white male student. It's just a whole kind of waste of energy. Um, but she lays out here just how all the problems do come from colonialism and the colonizing class that has destroyed the entire society of Hawaii in so many ways and continued their land dispossession and genocide. It was white people who came to Hawaii, dispossessed them of their land, instituted things like blood quantum to divide the Hawaiians, the native Hawaiians, and continue furthering their loss of people. And then, um, what scares so many colonizers is them realizing that, like, this system, this complete system, is built on genocide of colonized peoples. It's built on extermination, right? All to continue this brutal system that is just built on death and destruction. And colonizers are scared that when colonized peoples regain sovereignty, right, regain their land back, and have a world where no one lives at the expense of another, like that's what colonized peoples want to build. But in their mind, they're scared that colonized peoples will rise up and just like take them all out and build a world that's built on violence and racism and colonialism of them, right? Because that's how they built their society. And so Nani Kaitraza like lays it out, and like some of these liberal white people love to think that there's like this racial harmony that exists in the world, right? Like that you can just be friends with colonized peoples and not like be their oppressor and genocider. But that's not the reality until the colonial system is ended.
Full unity with that, with how beautifully you just laid that out. Especially that last part where that also kind of goes into my read that back that we'll go into after our next fundraising call. But yeah, that like we as colonized people have the full prerogative to be hostile towards colonizers. Like you are our enslaver, you are our genocider. Why would we be friends with you? Why would we be friends with you without you proving that you are willing to not only fall under our leadership but provide material reparations? You know what I'm saying? So shout out to the white people. I'm gonna use white people because y'all have regained your humanity in the reparations. Y'all really are proving yeah, oh, thank you. But yeah, y'all are really proving that you are willing to fall under colonized leadership and that you're willing to build against this white power system that is literally murdering us daily. So I fully unite with what you just laid out. And it's just a lot, to be honest. It's a lot to, as a colonized person, to literally exist while your genocide is occurring. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a lot. But it's worse to just be liberal about it and be like, well, this is how things are. Like, no. Your ancestors died fighting on their feet. Why would you lay down and take this? You know what I'm saying? Why would you lay down and take this brutalization? So yeah, I fully unite with that. Yes, it is our prerogative. It is for them to prove that they are peaceful, not for us, not for it to assume that they are. Full unity, exactly, because they have only proven that they are violent. They have only proven time and time again that they are violent. And it doesn't matter if one individual person that's nice to you, one individual colonized person or colonizer who is nice to you, like that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter because they have an entire white supremacist state apparatus behind them. So you make them angry, they call the cops on you and you are dead. You know what I'm saying? Like you call that's the difference between a colonizer and a colonized person. Like we do not have access to this white power system. Like I call the police and I can get assaulted. I can get arrested. Like why would I call the pigs? Why would I call the pigs in any capacity? So I fully unite with that.
Yes, full unity with that, Chief Itza. Yeah, like the only way for like a colonizer to be on the side of the colonized is for them to commit national suicide and divest. Right? That's what reparations is. It's divestment from the white power state that continues this genocide and colonialism in your name as the colonizing class, right? And society's not just built up like, as much as individualism is bred into us. We don't live as individuals in the society, right? Like we are communal, and you cannot just as one white person think like, hey, like I'm going to divest myself from the white power state without doing anything material for colonized peoples.
Exactly.
That's for Black Hammers, like no, like
Exactly. And I want to highlight KW's comment. Euros get confused when they find out colonized people just want their MFing land back for themselves and let the Euros go back to their rock. Exactly. Like y'all constantly talk about how beautiful Europe is. Go back to Poland, go back to Italy, go back to France, whatever. Like leave, go away. You are a plague on all colonized life. Yes. Can we highlight Ali's comment? What is blood quantum? This separation method they used against the Hawaiians. Someone answer me in the comments. Oh, okay. Well, we want to highlight that now, because I'm sure that you are not the only person who has that question, Comrade Ali. Like, blood quantum is essentially it's like what the white supremacist government decides who is native enough and who is not native enough to be to be native. And in the worst, it's disgusting because that's not how our societies work. You know what I'm saying? That's not how our societies work in any capacity. Like, you are indigenous to the land, you're indigenous to your community and to your people. And it doesn't, a colonizer is not going to be like, oh, you're too white to be native. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you literally talking about? And blood quantum is essentially a tool to dispossess indigenous people of their land. So they're like, specifically in the case of Native Hawaiians, like, you have to be 50% more, 50% or more indigenous Hawaiian to have access to your land. Huh? Like, what are you talking about? This is like, so in 2 generations, an indigenous person can be completely dispossessed of the land if they're less than 50% of indigenous, like, an indigenous phenotype, which is not even a thing because indigenous people look differently everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, so there's not one single way to look like an indigenous person, if that makes sense. So let me know, Ali, in the comments if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's just a way to measure what amount of native blood you have in your body, right? Which is just such a crazy construct, right? Because you are who you are. And especially too, because like colonialism, this historic event of colonialism is what forced us as indigenous peoples to be mixed, right? This is a colony, and it's been a colony. America has been a colony for over 400, over 500 years, right? Ever since colonizers stepped across these shores in the lands that they termed Hispaniola, right, in the Caribbean, and then bred out. And it's like, of course, indigenous peoples mixed with Europeans, mixed with Africans, mixed with other groups, but that does not make you any less who you are.
Yeah, exactly. And often not by choice. I need
Yeah.
you I need you colonizers to put that in your very, like, very thick skulls, no brain having ass. Like, that was not by choice. Our ancestors were raped, were enslaved. Just because I have more phenotype of a colonizer does not mean anything. It was not by choice. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh yes, I'm better because my ancestors were raped by you. Like, no, no, not at all. Exactly.
No, exactly. And it's like, if you're like considered mixed in this society, right? Like, especially like, the colonizer and the colonized, that's not an equal relationship on equal grounds and equal footing, right? Like, in any way. Because, one person in that relationship has an entire white power state back, behind them that can kill their colonized partner. And then their child will not experience the same freedom that their colonizer parent has and stuff like that. So,
Exactly. Full unity. And this is why we really strongly, they also don't count being native mixed with other kind of native. You can be 40% Hawaiian and 30% of another nation and not be native enough. Goofy-ish. Wow, thank you for laying that out, gutter trash, gutter trash. Yes, thank you for laying that out because that is literally what they intend to do. It's You're not native enough. Like, it's just a way, it's a legalized way to dispossess indigenous people of their land because they can't outright murder us anymore. Like, and they still do, by the way. They still do. But now this is another method as well. So yeah, it is a product of colonization. Exactly, DH. Exactly. Yeah, it's just so disgusting. And yeah, yeah. Like, we could go on about blood quantum all day. But this is why we have our second principle of unity, where we are equal regardless of our mixed or multiracial or multiracial like, identities, because we recognize that we didn't choose this. We didn't choose for our ancestors to be raped. We didn't choose for all this to happen. But as long as we are fighting for liberation, as long as we are all united on our 4 principles of unity, we move. We move. So yes, full unity with that.
exactly. In pre-colonization, plenty of peoples were still mixed, like, with other groups and everything. It's just like this colonial reality has termed that if you're mixed, like you're not enough of the identity that you choose, right? Because of this colonial structure that like seeks to divide colonized peoples and
Mm-hmm.
seeks to then, further this extermination and genocide of indigenous peoples everywhere.
Yes, I would love to highlight KW's comment. We win when we unite to our ancestors' struggles. Exactly, exactly. Full unity with that. And crackers are scared. If I were you, I'd be scared too. When all colonized people worldwide unite, like just use your brain. I mean, I know that's hard for you to use because you don't even have one. But like, there's more of us than there are of you. Like, when we are united, when we unite and pick up where our ancestors left off, we are unstoppable. So I'd be scared too. I'd be shaking. Like, but
Over
anyway.
90% of the people around the world are colonized peoples, right? Like, it's just crazy because there's only so much land to bomb and destroy, right? There's only so much of this horrific violence that you can send out into the world before it just comes back to completely obliterate the colonial system.
Yes. Ooh, gutter trash coming with the hits today. They said relate through connection and struggle, not just DNA. Punta, punto. Because we recognize we may share DNA, but you're still a neocolonial sellout. You're still selling out our people. What does that mean when we're not struggling together, you know? When we're not struggling together, when we are not like in this united and principled struggle. Like, I want you to be free. I love you, so I want you to be free. I want you to be liberated, you know? So punto. Yes. Enough about we completely decenter colonizers. Who cares about them? They're so annoying. Like, they're really a plague on all colonized life. Let's move into this fundraising call where we will have Hammer City free of these colonizers, free of these pests, these diseases. So yeah, let's move into our fundraising call for Hammer City.
Yes, we ain't gonna have no blue squares. I don't know if y'all seen these blue squares on Insta. None of that in Hammer City.
Blue squares? What are you talking about? I have not seen that.
You got research, but it's like with the whole obviously the Palestinian genocide going on. It's all of these
Oh Lord.
Jewish people who want to be oppressed so bad, as if the Palestinians aren't the ones being bombed and genocided right now.
Oh
And it's the whole
yeah.
thing with blue squares in support of the state of Israel.
Literally, they're scared because they can't control the narrative anymore. Like, literally, all of it is being like exposed as literally settler colonialism, which is what it is. Like, if that's your homeland, why do you have to colonize it?
Yeah, and look at how they're flooding the airports to leave, the state of isn't real because they're not native. Like, hello. But anyways, with Hammer City, y'all will have to not endure any of that because it's a space for all people of color to live free, right, and liberated. There's going to be no discrimination on anything that divides us in this colonial reality. Yes, Chief Alma coming through with $5 for the home dome. Yes, we're gonna have those beautiful home domes. We're gonna have earth bag homes. We're gonna have everything in Hammer City: jobs, housing, food, healthcare. Because even the healthcare in this system is awful.
Exactly. New purse, same Vanguard. Yes. Make sure to donate to our donor box. Yes.
Yeah.
We're no longer using GoFundMe. That is some Fed shit. So, excuse me. That is Fed. That's a Fed website. So let's move it to moved it to DonorBox at donorbox.org/buildhammercity. So I'm so excited about that. Yes, $4 from Sicko Praxis. I love that name. Yes, I'm so excited for these home domes too, Chief Amalicha. Like, I'm gonna paint mine green. I think maybe to add some little. I'm excited for the like gardens in our home and our like homes. Yes.
Ooh, wow, all these reparations. Yes, and there's gonna be no cops, no rent, no Rona, and no colonizers, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna be the first space to liberate all colonized peoples and further anti-colonial revolution worldwide, and ensure
Exactly.
that the land is returned to indigenous peoples worldwide.
We're gonna have gardens on our roofs. Yes, Chief Amalicha, you know it. We're gonna be building those, and we're literally building a food forest. Okay. Yes, 25 more dollars towards Hammer City. We want the colonized masses to have self-determination. Yes. New per Saint Vanguard. Land is power. Another $50. Ooh. I love these reparations.
Wow, look at this. Send the D to your home next. No.
Oh my lord. I'm like, I love reparations. I'm like, I'm ready to start my day.
Yes, $60. I think that's Chief Addie.
Oh my
Donated
god.
$5.
I'm gonna miss y'all too. This has been so fun.
But yeah, like I've seen your gardens, Chief Pizza. I'm excited to have some of that food in Hammer City. Those veggies, those fruits. They looking healthy. They look good.
Yes.
Where we
I'm so excited about that. Comer Petunia donated $30 for a copless future. Unity with that. Like we had outlined earlier in the show, like why would we call the pigs when they are the reason they are an extension of the state? Obviously they are the state. They're only here to harm us. They're only here to harm us. So why would we incorporate them in a new world that we are building?
exactly, and it's like so many of these like different types of white groups love to claim that they're oppressed and stuff, especially the Irish, the Italians, But who fills up these pig forces? Who funds
Exactly.
these pig forces? It's the Irish, Italians just filling them up, and the white Jews just like funding them, right? Like these pig forces that then kill colonized peoples.
Exactly.
We ain't
Exactly.
gonna have any of that in Hammer City.
Exactly, no pigs.
You read.
Exactly. And yes, Ali, you can donate to our donor box at donorbox.org/BuildHammerCity, or you can donate on Cash App and Venmo at Build Hammer City. So just very simple, Build Hammer City on all of them. So yeah, it's very easy to remember because we want to build Hammer City, so you can donate through those. But yes, I'm so excited. I'm so excited, and like again, I'm so excited to crochet sweaters. Like we're gonna crochet sweaters from the wool of the sheep that we like raise, and it's not going to be this abusive shit like or these abusive practices. It's really going to be a respect to our relatives, you know, not only our animal relatives but the plants and then the rest of nature around us. So I'm so excited about that. I'm just excited to be enveloped in love, you know what I'm saying? Like I like organizing with just colonized people is such a beautiful experience, but building an entire new world, I'm so excited. I'm living for it. Like it's so exciting.
Yes, and we are really building that world, like, and it's crazy because, like, we continue to go viral with, like, all of these, like, all this press covering, like, Black Hammer, but it's like we're ushering in this new world where no one will have to live at the expense of another, where colonialism is just completely ended. And I cannot be more excited for that reality after, like, feeling the pain of my ancestors of over 500 years of colonialism, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Full unity with that. And we all colonized people deserve a liberated space where they can be safe, where they know that they will not go hungry, where they know that their children will be safe to just walk around in the food gardens, to walk around in the beautiful domes in our community and not be snatched up and trafficked like our our African indigenous children in the colony. 10 more for you, amazing hosts. Ooh, thank you for coming. Let
Yeah.
me
Ooh. Yeah, y'all coming through with the donations this morning. Y'all got real generous today, and we love to see it. Y'all ready for Hammer City? I'm dead. No,
Ego
but for
girl.
real.
I'm screaming. Exactly. Like, go worry about yourself. Go worry about how you are literally decreasing in population. Like, go mind your own business is what we're trying to say. Like, go figure that out over there. Um,
Yo, for real, and it's crazy because it is decreasing. And like, I was watching this video of this. I think they were pigs, and they were talking about how they just see like so many like multiracial relationships today. Especially between colonizer and colonized. Then obviously like 9 out of 10 times like the child comes out looking like the colonized indigenous subject, and they're like like that's just the reality we're going to. So like I'm setting up my daughter with an Asian um, or no, like yeah, my son will be set up with an Asian woman and he'll be set for life. I was like, what the hell is this? But it's like they're even kind of scared of being bred out of the reality, right, of this colonial reality and just completely losing their power. Because their
mhm.
power is just maintained on genocide and land dispossession and theft. So what do when that's no longer the reality?
Exactly. And even when you were just saying that, like they literally breed us. They're trying to breed us. Like they don't even see us as people that they can build. Of course not. Because how would you ever have a sustainable relationship with your enslaver, with the person who is enacting your genocide? You know what I'm saying? Of course they're gonna be dehumanize you and see you as something they can only use to reproduce with. I wish Black Hammer much success on the city. The new world after the devil's world will only come when we build it, as they built theirs. Full unity indeed. Yes, full unity. Because it's cute to talk about decolonization. It's cute to really think about all these ideas to decolonize our mind, like whatever that means. But we actually have to enact that. We actually have to build materially to decolonize. Like Frantz Fanon said, like decolonization is a colonization was a violent event. So decolonization must be violent in return. Like punto, it will be destructive, but it's like a cleansing. It's a purging. Like yeah, being purged isn't super fun all the time. Yes.
Exactly.
Okay, let's
And
get.
it's,
Mhm.
I was just gonna say it's not violent because we're violent people, right? As colonized peoples, the violence always comes from colonizers in their colonial system, right? Who do not want to give up the power that is built on our genocide, right? And that's why, as colonized peoples and as colonized revolutionaries, we understand like what it will take.
Exactly. IMO, it's them white micro peens. Oh my god, share, please. Please. I mean, exactly. Like, why would we can really anyway, let's who cares about them? Let's talk about us. Let's talk
Yeah.
about how we are and how brilliant we are. So yeah, let's get into this next. Read that back. So mine is a little bit long, and it is on page 170 and 171 in the book. So, for Hawaiians, American colonialism has been a violent process. The violence of mass death, the violence of American missionizing, the violence of cultural destruction, the violence of American military. Once the United States annexed my homeland, a new kind of violence took root. The violence of educational colonialism, where foreign haole values replace native Hawaiian values, where schools such as the University of Hawaii ridicule Hawaiian culture and praise American culture, and where white men assume the mantle of authority, deciding what is taught, who can teach, and even what can be said, written, and published. In the colony of Hawaii, the University of Hawaii stands atop the educational pyramid in the state. Like the military, the university is a guardian of white cultural dominance, the standard of American university curriculum, bureaucratic structure, and white male faculty characterize the institution. People of color comprise over 75% of the student body, while the faculty is over 70% haole. For Hawaiians, the situation is even worse. 13 tenured Hawaiian professors or Hawaiian faculty compared to the nearly 660 white faculty. This situation constitutes institutional racism, the institutional dominance of white people over people of color. And then moving on to 171, starting over here. And this just to give more context. This is also talking about Carter, the white student, the homeless student who had a problem with what she was laying out. So I went on to say that Carter's appeal to individual exemption from power and privilege of white hegemony is in itself a typical American ploy to avoid responsibility for an ugly and vicious history that visited genocide on American Indians, slavery on Africans, peonage on Asians, and the dispossession of lands and self-governance of Native Hawaiians. I informed Carter that he is a direct beneficiary, as all white people, of racism, of a system of power in which one racially identified group dominates and exploits another racially identified group for the benefit of the exploiting group. In the United States, the people of color do not have the power to practice racism against white people. Let me read that again. In the United States, people of color do not have the power to practice racism against white people. The same is true in Hawaii, particularly regarding Native Hawaiians, contrary to Carter's belief, are not free to classify themselves, but are legally classified under American law by blood quantum. Hawaiians of 50% blood quantum are Native. Those with less blood quantums are not Native. Finally, I argued that the hatred and fear of people of color have of white people is born of experience of white violence. Therefore, it is for self-protection and in self-defense that people of color feel hostile towards haole. This hostility, I went on, is not haole bashing, but a smart political sense of survival. There is no reason why people who have suffered genocide and land dispossession and who continue to be dominated by white people should like or trust them. It is our prerogative as Native Hawaiians to decide whether, if at all, we should extend our trust and friendship to any haole. I close my statement by suggesting that if Carter did not like Hawaii, our language, or our ways of doing things, he could leave, since Hawaiians could most certainly benefit from one less haole in our homeland. Oh, I love this Read That Back. Oh my God, this Read That Back is so good. I love it. This Read That Back touches on the second principle of unity, that we are all equal, that all colonized people are equal regardless of these colonial divisions that they try to impose. Two, through blood quantum especially. Two, third principle of unity, that the root of everything that plagues all colonized life is colonialism. It is white colonizers. And our fourth principle of unity, which all colonized people are the true leadership of an anti-colonial revolution. This is a really powerful Read That Back because Carter, and as many white people do, try to as individuals try to remove themselves from colonialism, when it's like, no, like you were saying earlier, we do not move individually, we do not move in a vacuum, we move communally, we are in communities, and your community happens to be one of genocide, of massive exploitation, of enslavement. um, so you can't just divorce yourself from that without, again, being materially okay, paying reparations to repair this relationship that you have against colonized people. And also wanted to highlight, as well, that this literally, like, very beautifully outlines, like, colonized people cannot be racist towards colonizers. You know what I'm saying? People of color cannot be racist towards whites, like, in any capacity, because racism is an extension of colonialism, which is used to justify our genocide, our colonization. You know, where they're like, oh, indigenous people are lazy, indigenous people are rapists, X, Y, and Z. Like, you're projecting, first of all, and secondly, you're using this to justify our colonization when we know that's not true. Like, um, so there's so much we can lay out in this, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Chief Federico.
Land back, full unity, Chief Pizza. Y'all, you really laid it out. Like you went in, and just yeah, full unity because like it just lays out how all of the problems that we face come from this colonial structure, come from the reality of colonialism, and that like people of color, obviously colonized peoples, do not have the power in any way to practice racism. Racism is really just justification for the oppression of colonized peoples, right? To say that we're racially inferior, that the reason why we don't hold power in the structure is because we're less than, because the colonizers see us as less than human, right? And continuously work to oppress and silence and genocide us. And that's what racism is. And so how could colonized peoples have the power to practice that against colonizers when colonizers are not oppressed, they're the oppressors, right? And it's like colonizers get so upset at a few like words against them, like wow, because like colonized peoples made up a couple slurs against you, but it's like you have all of these slurs against us, this propaganda machine consistently working and propagating against us, and it's all backed up with mass incarceration, with executions by pigs, with continued land dispossession, right? All of these institutions that are just built on our genocide, and you get mad because you're called a Halle, like it's just crazy. And so like Konani Petras is just laying it out. But obviously it is, tied to this liberal situation of this white university student, right, who obviously is going to a colonial university to further this system of colonization, right? And it's kind of like wasted energy in a sense, but it lays out to like this just reality for colonized peoples. And you laid it out, so I love it.
Yes, full unity. Like, it's just a lot, like, I really love this read that back because there's so much we could talk about. My brain is like, but I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I love the fact that she outlines very explicitly and outlines every nation or most nations like that were colonized, like the enslavement of African peoples, the dispossession of land and self-governance of indigenous peoples, the peonage of Asian people. It's just really, like, again, we must unite globally. We must unite. And that's why they're scared. That's why colonizers are scared, because we are not playing games. We are not playing games. We are dead serious about revolution. We are dead serious about liberation. And again, like, you're worried about us. Go worry about your declining birth rate. Go worry about your young girls killing themselves. Go worry about the people that are overdosing in your communities. Don't worry about us. Go mind your own business. But yes, I really love this. And as all colonized people, we really got to unite. Like, it's just scientific. We're all in the same struggle. So why not unite? Why not unite principally and be like, okay, I want you to be free. I'm gonna get free too, but we gotta be in this struggle together. So I really love that.
Exactly. Well, Unity Chief Itza, and I wanted to highlight some comments too, just like from some people's, right? Like,
Y'all are going in. I love
we
it.
understand, like, once we become conscious in this colonial structure, right? Like, what does it mean to decolonize your mind? And that's why the colonial system works to infiltrate drugs into our communities, alcohol into our communities, all to then, keep us disconnected from this decolonization process that will further anti-colonial revolution. And what did KW say? Settlers really think they know how to do everything. Colonized people have literally been doing all of the work since the dawn of colonization. Period. Like, who has been the ones upholding this colonial structure, right, to provide all of the resources that then go into your community, right? while you're sitting behind a desk, doing nothing of productive value to society besides like financing our genocide and land dispossession and destruction and death.
E- Exactly. And you had to colonize the rest of the non-white world to not like I need white people to colonizers to study their own history. Y'all were drinking feces water because you couldn't be hygienic while our entire we were building literal entire cities with yeah, they can't even clean their own houses. Like what are you what like what and then you want to compare you think we're in the same like playing fields. No, like no. We literally had to teach you how to grow your own food, how to fish. That's embarrassing. Like, so it's just a projection where they're like, oh, like, again, like the projection of us being lazy. Like, you're lazy. You literally had to enslave and colonize people to build empires for you because you couldn't build it yourself. Embarrassing.
You were just going in, Chief Issa. I love it, but it's so true. Like I saw this whole Twitter thread, which was this colonizer was talking about how they didn't even wash their legs until African people were talking about how colonizers don't wash their legs. And she was like, "Oh yeah, like I just started washing my legs because I saw how like black people were like joking about white people not washing their legs." I was like, "What? How do you not wash your legs?" But yeah, and then it's just this continued projection, right, onto colonized peoples.
Literally, what the F? Like, it's so disgusting. It's so disgusting. Yes, like, what are you talking about? Y'all are so nasty. Um, yes. Okay, yes. We could go on. We could go in on these colonizers all day, but we really want to, focus on ourselves, center ourselves, because we are. Why would we center somebody who's not even going to be in the new world we're building? So let's talk about us.
You've been trashing them all morning, and I've been living for it. So it's in. But yes, we're gonna go into our next read that back, our last one for this episode. So I'm just gonna pull that up. Uh, all right. So this again is like this continued struggle that Honani Kai Trust is having with the university and with these white professors who are just like obviously racist and colonial. So let's go in. Thus, responsible speech, as it is defined by white men, creates the parameters of academic freedom. White men can say all manner of dangerous, violent, and false things and tell absolute lies. In fact, like the lies of Miller, Kipnis, Lodon, and the rest, and their speech is acceptable. But when an articulate native woman speaks the truth about the Halle, she must be reprimanded, removed, and shut up. No academic freedom for her, nor speech either, nor free speech either, because by definition, dissenting speech, speech that criticizes and opposes the prevailing system of colonial domination, cannot be responsible. Why? Because such speech is dangerous. It is the voice of political analysis and of critical, alternative intellectual tradition. In my specific case, what I wrote in my newspaper article was the truth, the unalloyed, ugly truth about Halle power in the United States and in Hawaii. This truth has anchored a great tradition of resistance created by Black and American Indian and Palestinian and Asian and Pacific Islander peoples. Further, this tradition is unknown and untaught by most Halle in the university, which means by nearly 80% of the faculty. Native people do have a claim to feel hostility toward their oppressors, and Hawaiians would benefit from one less Halle in Hawaii. In fact, we would benefit from thousands less, beginning with the military. Indeed, Native people all over the world would benefit if their colonizers went home. Wow, this just like laid it out. It is tied to this very liberal situation, but it is very much this truth of how the colonial reality, in every way, if you speak against it, right, what will happen? It will sever you from, reaping the rewards of the colony and continue to try to repress and, take you out. Dr. Honani Trask is like laying out this reality, this material reality of what colonialism is and what the colonizing class maintains themselves on. And, there's this entire propaganda machine, which the colonial academia space plays into, that justifies these racist colonial institutions that continue to dominate the life of indigenous peoples, of colonized peoples, and continues their genocide. And then She's like, I'm speaking out, and then like I'm silent. But she's like, what's funny too is like there exists this resistance of tradition of colonized peoples all across the world, right? From Asia to the land of Palestine, which we're seeing right now being completely leveled by these settlers, right? These colonizers who have completely dispossessed the Palestinians of their land. And that's what feeds into like our principle of unity number two, right? That all colonized peoples are connected in this struggle, that we're all equal, and that colonialism is our enemy, right? Like in this reality. And that, like how like these colonizers love to think that they brought civilization to indigenous societies, but it's like no, it's only death and destruction, right? And we would certainly benefit from all of them like just leaving, right? Like if it was tomorrow, you all just left, like indigenous societies would just flourish. Like
Exactly, exactly. Like colonizers go home, go home. Colonizers go home, and it's just very like it just go home, go home. You are a disease. You are a plague on all colonized life. Go back to Europe. Very simple. Get on a boat. It's very generous if we even give you a boat. We might make you swim. But anyway, yeah, I fully unite with that, and I really like this read that back in the way that you outlined it. And again, this is really the second principle of unity, like second and fourth principles of unity, and third as well. Honestly, all of them, because one, we all have the right birthright to self-determination. All of us, every single colonized person in this planet, all colonized life. All colonized life by that extent. Two, that we are all equal. As this laid out, that we are all equal, regardless of these colonial divisions. That they want to separate us and divide us. Like we recognize that we're all equal. We're not the same. The same way that a bee and an ant aren't the same, but they're both equal to an ecosystem. They're both fundamentally important. That doesn't mean necessarily that we are the same. So yeah, and third principle of unity, again, colonialism is the root of all evil. Colonizer violence is the root of all evil, is the root that plagues all colonized life. And the fourth, that we are our own leadership. We don't need white leftists or white communists, Ku Klux communists to come up and be like, oh, we're gonna lead the revolution, because materially you can't. You can't lead a revolution against something you materially benefit from. That doesn't make sense. So yes.
period. And it's like no, that's like just I lost my train of thought there, but I have full unity with what you laid out, Chief Isa. Like, oh, I was gonna say too, like, as chief of social media, like, within agitation and propaganda, like, this is why we have our propaganda apparatus, right? To understand the colony, like, continuously pumps out this propaganda 24/7 through like CNN, through Fox News, through all of their media outlets, right? And it only continues to justify this colonial reality. Like right now, what we see with them doing with Palestine, right? Like so many of these reporters are tied to these Israeli settlers, and like look at how they're painting the Palestinians, right? And like I saw some like clip where it was like this like Israeli settler girl and this Palestinian girl, right? And this Israeli settler girl is like eating hot Cheetos like in her bed, right? Like on her phone. Meanwhile, the Palestinian girl has like an entire like village destroyed behind her, leveled to the ground and bombed. And like they're comparing in the same lens as if their reality is the same. Like, oh, like, we're both experiencing this violence. Like, what? So, that's why we have like Black Hammer Times. That's why we have this entire propaganda apparatus to ensure that we're getting this message out to the people and that they understand that all of these problems they're facing come from colonialism.
That is so funny. That's so funny. Like, yes, and we are going to Africa and Turtle Island and Pachamama and Asia. We are all over the world, baby. Like, we cannot be stopped. We are dead serious about revolution. We are dead serious about liberation. We're not playing games. We're not playing games. That's why a literal ex-CIA operative was like, they're not playing games. We need to listen to them. Why would I listen to you loser ass like Ku Klux communists or any colonizer by that extent? Like, that's
Exactly.
like, it don't matter.
And it's like these colonizers love to tell us to go back to like where we're from and everything, but it's like y'all aren't native to like anywhere on this earth. Like where could you claim that you're native to? Like you're even disconnected from your own land in Europe, like because that's what settler colonialism has done to you, right? Like has disconnected you from the cultures of which you had originated, right? All to then become this colonizing white class in America that sustains itself on pure death and destruction. I mean, how many bombs are dropped in your name, right, in the so-called Middle East? Also, that you can have oil that fuels your car, right? Like,
Hmm. Exactly. Exactly. Yes. Ooh, could we highlight reset reparations core? Revolution is in colonized DNA. When has a colonizer ever had when has a colonizer ever had to overcome oppression? When have they ever known oppression and colonizers will lead the revolution? They could never. Lamb back. See, amazing job. Salute to Chief Oju, Chief Ture, like really laying it out and really helping them understand like what is going on, like why they need to pay reparations, why we are in this continuous nonstop struggle against our genocide, against colonialism, because revolution is nothing new. Revolution started when when the first African was stolen from their land, when the first indigenous person was enslaved. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's nothing new. It's been here.
Exactly. And
That
like,
is, that's what it is.
okay.
Sorry to cut you off, but yes, I love B's comment. I started calling Europe Western Asia a year ago. That's what it exactly like. Yeah. Mm.
And like their cultures today in Europe too, like it's just crazy. It's like all stolen, you know, like what are Italian food dishes? Like, you know what I mean? The
Yeah,
chocolate
exactly.
that goes into their desserts is stolen from indigenous lands. The tomato, like everything, the potatoes, all of it, like it's just crazy. Once you start diving into even their so-called cultures, right? Like that are in Europe, like the Spanish, like and those like, you know, these cultural traditions, right, which are like stolen from the Roma people. Like
Hmm.
it's crazy. But
Literally.
I just wanted to ask you, Chief Issa, like, what is something that you learned from this book that you're going to take with you, right? Like, to further your own kind of self within anti-colonial revolution.
Yes, yeah. And this book, although it was quite liberal, I learned a lot from it. Like, I learned that liberalism is a disease. Liberalism is literally a disease. But I also learned this book really just reinforced the power of our second principle of unity, where we are all equal. We are all equal. And as displaced indigenous people, that is something that the colony continuously tells us. You're not indigenous enough. You are not native enough, X, Y, and Z, because you dispossessed me from my land, from my people. Like, you are the reason why I don't have access to those things. And also just the way that the colony tries to divide us in all of these ways, like it just really reinforced, and how she was outlining that this is not a Hawaii explicit or specific problem. This is a worldwide problem, from Tahiti to the southwestern United States to Africa to different parts of the world. Colonization, it's the same boot on all of our necks. So we must unite. We must unite. Like that is the only scientific solution, that all colonized people unite for our liberation, our collective liberation. So it also reinforced our fourth principle of unity, that we are the true leadership, that no white colonizer is going to lead us to liberation or going to free us. No. But also learned by disuniting with some of her points that begging the UN to, recognize indigenous sovereignty, like that literally is made up from people who were Nazis. Like the UN started with people who were ex-Nazis. So yeah, those are things I learned from this book. And just internalizing the power of revolution. So revolution is the only solution. So yeah, what did you learn from it, Chief Federico?
Land back. Well, Unity, you just laid it out again. And yeah, like obviously it exposes how liberalism is this disease that is so infectious within us as colonized peoples and what it does to even disconnect us from our own people and furthering our own struggle against the colony, right? But I think I learned, like just the importance of continuously being political and then organized, right? Like organized as all colonized peoples in the struggle against colonialism. Because, this is not only the continued struggle of the indigenous peoples of Hawaii, but it's obviously the struggle of all colonized peoples worldwide. And, people like to think like, oh, like, Arabs are colonizers of the Middle East, or, Japan did this, right? But it's like all non-white people have a history of being oppressed and genocided by the colonizing class that, the colonizing European class that has sustained this structure on like mass death, right? On bombs that were dropped on Japan, on bombs that were dropped in the so-called Middle East that have made them colonized peoples because they have seen like what happens if you're not completely subservient to white power, to imperialism, to capitalism. You're completely dispossessed. And I think too, like Honani Kaitras would touch on that at certain points. Like this is what Asian peoples have experienced. This is what colonized peoples across the world have experienced, right? But never fully connected it to us all having to come together and unite to end this. She's very liberal and like, oh, indigenous peoples have to come together and unite. But it's like all colonized peoples are indigenous peoples who have in one way or another because of colonialism been dispossessed of their identities, their nationalities, their lands, and their system that was not built on death and destruction.
Exactly, full unity. And I'd love to highlight some more of what our other colonized people that have been reading this book with us have learned from it. So KW, this book taught me that the colony can only educate in what it misses and in action. It doesn't center indigenous revolutionary intellectuals and doesn't put people into work that educates the people. Exactly, full unity. And also that these colonial institutions are miseducation institutions. It's projection. It's like, how could you write about a history when you didn't even speak our language, when you didn't even understand our fundamental connection to the earth and each other? You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's again just projection. Like, they're like, oh well, we did it, so they probably did it too. No, you are a beast. You are disgusting. Like, do not compare us.
Yeah, they really be putting on the textbooks too, like these white people as Egyptians, ancient Egyptians. And it's just like the funniest freaking thing. I remember opening up textbooks like as a child, and you just see like a white person with like, like traditional Egyptian garb, like indigenous Egyptian garb, and you're like, what the hell? Like you put that person in the sun in Egypt, they are like in the emergency room, like
Oh my god, not the emergency room.
it's
Oh
just a
my
false history, and it's like crazy because like you can see it, like Europeans went through like these lands and like especially would like chisel away and like chop off like the noses of like the pyramids and like all of these like statues and everything, and then propagated a false history that like they built up these civilizations, that they were responsible for them, that they have produced civilization when it's only barbarism, it's only savagery, it's only destruction.
Exactly, full unity. And I want to highlight Ali's comment as well, where we must unite and slice the head off of the one wearing the boot placed on our necks. Full unity, exactly. And this is what this book really encapsulated for me as well. Like, there is no other option. There is not, oh, indigenous people of Turtle Island fighting our own struggle, African people fighting their own struggle, indigenous Hawaiians fighting their own struggle. No, that is unscientific because there's more of us than there are of them. And when we unite, like, recognize that how are people on Turtle Island going to be free, but indigenous Hawaiians not be free? You know what I'm saying? That doesn't work because again, we are all nature. We are all fundamentally connected, and it's just the same way where when we liberate the land, we liberate all colonized life. You know what I'm saying? You can't have one or the other. So we got to liberate all of the land, all colonized life, and all colonized people. We all have to unite to do that. So yeah, and also like white colonizers being upset that we say what we want to. Like, we are working class revolutionaries. I'm not going to filter myself for you or anybody in that matter. So you're mad, and you can stay mad. I don't really care about your feelings. Anyway,
your feelings over being in unity with like over 90% of the world's population. I'm gonna choose unity with over 90% of the world's population. Sorry.
Yeah, we're also beautiful. We're also brilliant. Like, being in a revolutionary space free of colonizers has been so healing, like has been so transformative, has been like one of the most beautiful things. Like, filtering colonizers out of my life has really just done beautiful things for my mental health. Like, I love it here.
Yes, full unity, Chief Itza. And we're not going to filter ourselves, right? Like that's what being revolutionaries means. And like, liberating our people, right? Like you cannot liberate your people by filtering down the reality that is oppressing them in any way, right? And being nice to a colonizing oppressor that is justifying continued genocide. Like, I recently saw like this like colonizer like put up this blue square that like justified the genocide of indigenous Palestinians, like how can you be nice to that when like you're literally seeing what's occurring right now, the material reality play out of what's occurring to the indigenous Palestinians and how their land is being dispossessed through bombing, through drone strikes, right? So you can't fix that.
Literally. Yeah, so full unity with that, and we love it here. So brilliant, beyond brilliant. Of course, yeah. Like, and I just want to highlight: colonized unity develops colonized brilliance. Because we, as colonized people, yes, we are brilliant individuals, but we cannot reach our maximum potential if we are not in a collective. We must be organized. We must be organized, and in the same extent that we are white, like Also, F white colonizers. I'm gonna just say that y'all are so annoying. Like, go away. But anyway, when we unite, we develop this brilliance. We develop this brilliance because we recognize we are nature. You know, in the same way that one bee, yes, it's important, but when it's in a beehive, when it's working together, when it's actually organizing and producing something for the collective, it's better for everybody. You know, so yes, I love it here.
Yes, and it's these white leftists and colonizers that hate us being organized, right? But how can you like that's what it takes to end colonialism once and for all. It's organization and it's being political and fully aware of this reality.
Mhm.
And with that, we're going to go into our announcements because we have incredible events coming up because we are organized, and we're here to free our people. And so we have all of these beautiful events that further anti-colonial revolution worldwide. And first announcement is our Tuesday rally, which we hold every week, Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time through our Facebook Live. And, if you're colonized, you can hit us up on Instagram to get that Zoom link that you can hop in. But this week's theme will be No Justice on Stolen Land. Because, yes, we're in full unity with the indigenous Palestinians at this moment and these settlers continuing their genocide. Because that's what it is, it's genocide. And so that's our theme, No Justice on Stolen Land. And, the stolen land of all colonized peoples worldwide and how this colonial system never brings us justice. So tune in.
Yes, unity. And we do not stand in solidarity, we stand in unity. Okay? There's a big difference. We stand in unity because we recognize the liberation of Palestine is the liberation of all colonized people. You know, we that's one step. That's one step into this anti-colonial revolution. So our next announcement is a Mad Mothership all aboard on May 28th, Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There's going to be original BHO tracks and dancing. I'm super excited about this. You know, our Mad committee is so brilliant. I'm so excited to listen to all these amazing tunes, and we have so many amazing revolutionary artists. So I'm excited to hear their new music as well.
Yeah, I heard some of the samples. They're good. Oh, I'm ready. We're going to get that boogie on. And then this, our reparations core event, No Tears Shed for Pigs, on May 31st, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's Memorial Day. But this is our event to show that obviously, one, we're against all colonialism, all of its holidays that celebrate our death, our genocide, because that's what Memorial Day is, right? Is a celebration of the imperialism of our lands and our genocide. And so, yeah, come check this out. We're going to have our beautiful, reparations corps recruits who have gone through our boot camp, who have learned what it means to disunite with white power, with settler colonialism, and are helping us to further anti-colonial revolution and who have fallen under our leadership. And this will be through our Facebook Live. And then, yes, this next announcement is our join the curriculum department. So we have put on beautiful curriculum events. We have education that goes out to all colonized peoples, including our youth, to adults, right? And so if you're a teacher, if you're interested in education, if you work with youth and you educate them, come check us out. Come join the curriculum department, and you can email bhcurriculum at protonmail.com. And then our next book, which we're excited to announce, and I'm so ready for this, is Samora Machel, an African revolutionary. And so he's a revolutionary in Mozambique fighting against the Portuguese. And we're going to dive into what it means and what we see with, once again, fighting against colonialism of European colonizers. And y'all ain't ready for who the host's going to be. It's Chifa Day and Chifa T. So, yeah, they're going to be diving into this book with y'all and having this next book trap. So, y'all better show up and support them and give them the love that they deserve. And then we're going to announce how much we raised. Because y'all really came through today. We raised $478. That's just so incredible. Thank you all for coming in, for contributing. because y'all like really are helping build Hammer City and making it a reality for the liberation of all colonized people worldwide. And I think Eats' internet went out, obviously, to internet contradictions and everything. So sad that they timed out early, but really appreciate y'all coming through and like coming to support us in this book trap and like waking up early to get this political education with us. And it was so exciting to dive in with all of you. And so I'm just gonna close it out, give y'all a good lamb back. See y'all next